I wanted to go live quickly to answer a question that Zoe had. Zoe is someone that I know over here in Australia. She sent me a question about Pageant sponsorship and how to get it. Now, I think this question, Zoe, is both very simple but yet it requires a lot of work. At the end of the day, look, I'll give you a couple of examples. So I think you may know Krista Heath, who I just interviewed, and she's over here in Australia. And also, I know people in America, for example, someone like Haley Ryan Hurst, who was the former Miss Oklahoma Teen USA. And so Krista being our current Miss Supranational Australia. Hi, Leilani. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you for all your support. Just talking about pageant sponsorship here. If you look at those two, so someone like Krista or someone like Haley, I've been following their pageant journeys quite closely for quite a long time now. And they're both, as far as I can tell, very good at getting sponsorship. Krista in particular, given that in Australia the pageant scene is very small. So to be able to get any sponsorship at all is basically a minor miracle. Aloha. I've been to Hawaii a while ago, loved it, probably due for a visit. But the reason, I said it's simple and yet it might involve a lot of work. The reason it's simple is someone like Krista or someone like Haley or any pageant girl who's good at getting sponsorship, or anyone, frankly, who's good at getting sponsorship, you need one of two things, hopefully both. In Krista's case, she has been building up that network for years. She has been working with pageant professionals in Australia. She's been doing right by them, by the way, not just working with them. She's been treating them professionally. She's been giving them the respect they deserve. She's very friendly, very courteous, very professional. Haley would be the same. She's incredibly professional to work with. That's number one. And the thing with that is, building up a network like that, it actually takes time. It's not something you can just manufacture overnight. And I say this because I used to I worked with an organization in university that was called ISAC. I think it still might exist. And it was an exchange organization. And the idea is we would approach companies to give us sponsorship. But the sponsorship they would actually give us, the biggest one anyway, they would be willing to they had to contract to take on an intern from overseas, maybe from Venezuela or maybe from France or wherever it was. They would have to contract to take on basically that intern and pay them for that position. And the idea was that it would be a cultural exchange. If we brought over someone from France, then we would probably send someone from Australia to France to work for a French company. So the idea was to foster mutual understanding and cooperation. But the reason that worked when it did was because there was a big payoff and this is going to another thing, but we had to work to develop that network over many, many years. And so before I joined the organization, there were people working on it. When I was there, we were working on it. But what actually happened over a period of years when I was there, you could see the organization was in decline because they weren't really building that network. They were too busy having fun or too busy having parties or doing things that might look like hard work but not really building that relationship. So that's number one. You got to build a network. You got to treat that network right. You got to foster it. You got to nurture it, and that takes time. So number one. So if you have that, if you don't have that, you got to start building it. It takes time. Number two, the second thing you need, you can have either or, preferably both. The second one you need though is an offer. And that really is a simple way of saying you have to provide something of value to the company, the brand, whoever it is you're approaching sponsorship for. I didn't realize pageantry isn't that large in Australia. Yeah, it's tiny in Australia. I don't know how big pageantry is in Hawaii. I've interviewed a couple of pageant contestants from Hawaii, but I don't know in general if it's huge in Hawaii. I'd venture that it's bigger in Hawaii than it is in Australia. Probably anywhere is bigger than here in Australia, Leilani. But as I was saying, that value proposition. So number one, you got to build your network. Number two, what's your offer? What's your value proposition? And I know, Zoe, you do a lot of work for brands, so it's no different than any other brand. Like, what are you selling, or what do you have to offer as a pageant queen? So when you do your sponsorship approach, whoever you're approaching, obviously, I'm sure you thought of this. It's like, well, what do I have to offer? Normally, what a pageant contestant has to offer is their audience, right? So you have 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, 5,000, 10,000, whatever it is. Know your metrics. Know how many followers you have. Obviously, you want to know who those people are. Male, female, living in which country, which age groups. Also, your engagement rate would help, because there are, unfortunately, a lot of people I know out there who buy followers. And so it looks super impressive. Got the blue tick and everything. You look at their engagement rate and it's through the floor. Whereas I know a lot of people who have on the front of it, like on the face of it, much smaller audiences, but those audiences are much more targeted and they're much more engaged. So that's the main thing I think that a pageant contestant would have to offer a business in exchange for a sponsorship is, frankly, exposure. And I'm sure you can come up with other things as well. I mentioned UGC. I think, Zoe, that you do UGC as well, so user-generated content, for those of you who don't know. And that's basically like, not all the time, but a brand could send you a product for review. Normally, well, very often you get the product for free. The idea is you do an honest review. That's the idea. You post it up and you're paid for doing that. You get the video, you get your product for free. The reason that they give you the product for free is because you're doing your social media work. You're doing the content generation work. You're creating the video. You put that work in. So you do something. They give you the product. You do something. So there's that exchange, that value proposition, that value exchange. And in theory, both parties are happy. Of course, sometimes it goes a little bit awry when one or both parties are unhappy with the exchange. But I think you get my point. So in terms of sponsorship, number one, look at your network. And it may not be in pageantry. You might have a good connection with your local gym, your local where you work out, your local restaurant, your local travel agent, maybe a church, right? So have a look at who your network is. Who have you built up that level of trust with? And I mean, you can always cold approach. You can always just send people emails and DMs and stuff like that. But from my experience, that doesn't work so well. When I say my experience also, it's people that I work with, not just my own. And then number two, what are you offering? And I think it'll be really good if you're not so good at writing, or even if you are, just to brainstorm. If you're stuck as to what it is you have to offer, go to ChatGPT and start brainstorming. Get some ideas. Give ChatGPT an idea of some of the big things you've accomplished in your life. And then get ChatGPT to maybe draft a sponsorship approach letter for you. Because I know it can be a bit look, I'll tell you from my point of view, when I get a sponsorship email, any email that's asking me to do something and it's full of grammatical errors, this might sound horrible to you, but it really just turns me off, because I'm someone who believes that if you really want me to do something for you, you would take the time to get the spelling right, to get the grammar right. And I know there are people with dyslexia and things like that out there. I myself was diagnosed with ADHD. I don't see that as an excuse, because in this day and age, there are so many tools to help you get it right. Again, as horrible as that might sound, I want you to send, if you're going to ask me for anything, you've got to send a professional correspondence. Professional means it's not signing off with XOXO. I mean, that's... The Brits love to sign off with X. I know this from working with them. I wouldn't do that in a professional capacity. You might want to, you don't have to start with Dear Adrian, but you might, to whom it may concern, if you don't know who you're addressing it to, or Dear Sir, Dear Madam, or, hello, or good afternoon. Not just go straight into it. Hi there. I think you get the idea. So, Leilani is saying, so Zoe, I will say, I hope that helps. I don't think that's any radical thinking there, any ideas you wouldn't have known, but getting sponsorship is really simple. It just takes hard work, which I feel is why a lot of people frankly can't get it, because there is a significant amount of work and time that goes into it. I don't think there's much of a chance, and I actually like this. I don't think anyone has much chance of getting a sponsorship when they haven't built a network, they have no value to add, and they just ask people, hey, sponsor me. I've been running a business almost my entire life. Like, why would I sponsor you when you don't know me? You have nothing to offer me and you're just saying, hey, give me money. Sorry, not going to happen. On the other hand, if you've built that network, Zoe, and you've got a lot to offer, I know you've got a big audience. So I'm not going to say it's easy, but you've got a much better chance than a lot of other people. All right, so Leilani says, yes, it takes time to build a healthy network with healthy relationships. Yeah, it's just old-fashioned, isn't it, Leilani? It's like, we used to go around. Now, I don't know how it is in Hawaii. I've always viewed Hawaii as a very friendly place, and people will say aloha. I love Maui, by the way. That's another topic for another day. But just taking time to say hello, hi, how are you? Me, myself, having worked with quite a lot of people from the south of the United States, I always thought initially it was funny that they would address people as sir or ma'am. But now I love it because it's a sign of respect. Old-fashioned values, and I think a lot of that has gone missing in this day and age. And yes, there are some things that are best left in the past. I don't think manners and respect are two of them. Leilani, yes, love this so much. What can you do for them? That's been my thought for so long. And to be fair, a lot of people struggle with that. Now, it could be that you don't have much to offer them, in which case I'd say, that's fine. Go away and work on your own skills until you do have something to offer them. Very often, having worked with a lot of young women, it's also that doubt, the self-doubt that gets in your way and prevents you from seeing what it is you have to offer. Very often, the people that I work with, very high achieving, very intelligent, and they have 10x to offer what most other people do, but they don't see it or they refuse to see it, to be more accurate, because they just get in their own way. It's that imposter syndrome that we like to say. And so, I don't know, sometimes people, maybe you don't have much to offer, in which case I would say, okay, go work on it. No problem. We'll start from zero, right? Take AI for an example. We've been talking about ChatGPT. It didn't exist 2-3 years ago, at least in the form it does now. No one knew about it, so no one had any skills. In 2 or 3 years, you could have developed skills in that area, and it would have been, quite frankly, very lucrative. So if you don't have the skills, go work on them. If you do and you're underselling yourself, then that's something else you got to work on, is selling yourself, which is something that will come with approaching for sponsorship, believe me. That's a great idea, asking ChatGPT to help you with ideas of what you can give to help others with value based on what you've accomplished. Yeah, and ChatGPT, I don't know how much you've been using it, Leilani, and for anyone who's watching this on the replay, ChatGPT now has advanced voice functionality, which means it talks to you like a real person. You can, if it's in the middle of talking, you can actually interrupt and it will stop. And it has that mode almost like Spotify or YouTube Premium. If you have that, when you turn your phone onto the lock screen, you can continue the conversation as if you were on the phone with someone. So you can actually Bluetooth it to your headphones or to your car. And you can be doing this whilst you're in your car driving, whilst you're on the treadmill running. You could be practicing, and I'll put in a plug for the mock interview session we've got coming up on the 12th of December. What I've been doing behind the scenes is working on a version of that so that you can just practice unlimited pageant interview questions verbally. And ChatGPT will give you feedback because now it's been trained to hear the nuance in the human voice. It can understand tonality. It can hear confidence. And so I was sitting right here and I was working on that just yesterday. And it was crazy because I was practicing my pageant interview answers and I wasn't happy with the answer I gave. It was okay, but it wasn't a pageant interview answer. And so I asked ChatGPT, how would you answer this? If you were Miss USA, how would you answer this? And it gave me this amazing, stunning answer. I don't know, Leilani, if you know Deshauna Barber, but that level of just, wow, it'd be like TED Talk sort of thing. I would listen to this person. And I looked at that and went, I need to work. I'd need to work really hard if I was to be able to deliver an answer like that. So then I asked ChatGPT, hey, you heard what I said. What 3 skills would I have to work on to be able to deliver an answer like that? And it gave me the answers. One of them was conciseness, was clarity. was breaking down a big answer into a simple answer. And so I went, okay, I want you to give me exercises to help me work on this skill. So let's stop the pageant interview for a second. I want you to come up with some sort of exercise where you ask me a question and it's going to help me develop the skill of making things more concise. And it came up with this long passage about environmental concerns or something. And it said, okay, I've given you these sentences. How would you say this in a concise way? And I summed it up in 2 words and I said, that's excellent. And so I could have kept working on that. My point to that is, can you imagine how much that would cost if you bring on a pageant coach to work on that with you? Now, of course, someone as myself has a lot of experience, hopefully still has something more to offer than just vanilla chat GPT. But I will tell you, there are probably a lot of other coaches out there who don't really have the skills and are just going into coaching because they want a title holder, and chat GPT is going to wipe them out because it does a better job than those coaches, and it's not free. Because that advanced voice functionality, you have to be on the paid membership for it, but it's like $20 a month. It's not nothing, but it's cheaper than any pageant coach I know. Leilani, it's your birthday on the 12th of December. Well, I'll excuse you for not attending our mock interview. Then you should be going to celebrate your birthday. But anyway, I am going to leave it there. I went on a bit of a tangent on AI, as I want to do because I work in that field. But suffice to say, so going back to Zoe, your question, sponsorship. Number 1, got to build that network. No shortcut to it. Takes time. Takes hard work. Number 2. What is your value proposition? What are you offering? You've got a big audience. I know that. I know you work hard on that. You've got UGC skills. You've worked on that. Bring those to the table. I would say with your network, you want to find people who would value those skills. Not everyone in your network would require your skills. So there's a bit of a mix and match going on. And again, I guess overall, don't be afraid to lean into something like a chat GPT. If you're a bit stuck, brainstorm with it. Get it to work on your sponsorship email or sponsorship letter, if anyone still does letters in this day and age. But it can be a big help, especially if you're not particularly good at drafting things like that. So let me leave it there. Leilani, thank you for jumping on, and also thank you for joining our broadcast channel, because I'm only broadcasting into the broadcast channel. I want to give you guys preferential treatment, unashamed favoritism, so to speak. And if you guys in the broadcast channel ever have any questions, feel free to ask me. I will try and answer, maybe not always in a video, but sometimes I feel video is best. And I like video, frankly. It gives you guys a chance to interact and jump on. If you're watching this and you're not in the broadcast channel, what are you waiting for? It's free. Join the broadcast channel. If you hate it, you can leave. It's fine. But I will say it's not just myself. I'm one of the coaches. I've got Danielle Mullins, who's the other coach, and Gracie Pfaff, who's the other coach who I jumped on with a live today, just talking about branding. And she's amazing at that. She works on social media, former Miss Earth USA Eco, and a top 16 at Miss Tennessee USA. And Danielle is former Miss Earth USA just last year and made top 20 at Miss Earth International. So between the 3 of us coaches, we probably know a thing or two, hopefully. We hope. We don't know. Leilani, you can tell me. But, all right, Leilani, thank you so much for jumping on. If I don't chat to you before your birthday, have an amazing birthday. And thank you, guys. I'll speak to you again soon.